Hello, lovely people, and welcome back to the latest episode of MMA from London to LA. My name is Callum, joined by the one and only Colin Crandall. Unfortunately, we couldn't have our partner in crime, Chris, with us, but he'll be back on the next episode, hopefully. Hope you're well, people. If you haven't already, please do smash the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's get into it. Another round of fights, and they just keep on coming thick and fast, and we love it. We love it. There's no off season when it comes to MMA. There's no off season when it comes to UFC. And that means we're blessed with great fights and great cards. So let's start with the most recent one, the fight night, headlined by Vicente Luque and Dos Anjos. What was your overall thoughts on it, Colin?
Overall thoughts was it was a pretty good action card. Not the best ever, not the worst ever. There weren't a lot of big names on the card. So people were a bit concerned that it wouldn't be as interesting, but I think it turned out to capture our attention fairly well. What did you think, my favorite British nobleman, Lord Callum Sanderson?
I thought it was a decent card. It wasn't the most, some really good finishes on there, but I think the card, it's difficult because when you come off the back of like a card like 291, where there were so many great finishes and so many great storylines coming out of it, it's hard to keep that momentum. It was a good card. I'd say maybe a 3 out of a 5 card.
Yep, or a 6 out of a 10.
6 out of 10. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, should we start with the prelims then? Should we sort of quickly go through the prelims and then look at the main card and then look ahead to what promises to be a fantastic card next weekend?
Yes, indeed. I'm excited about that. We'll get this all sorted, as you gentlemen would say over there in England. And so why don't we do it this way? I'll lump all the prelims together and give my thought, maybe 20 seconds on each one. And if you want, you can do the same. And we'll then spend a bit more time on the main event, but then spend a bit more time maybe overall on the Saturday's big 292. So let's get rolling here. And everyone watching, perhaps we're going to not even go quite 1 full hour. Although you never know, we have a lot of fun and we like to be as detailed as we can. Juliana Miller winning the Ultimate Fighter, looking really poor as a big favorite in England, as in a losing effort against Veronica Hardy. And this was quite important for her to come back and get on track. And again, she did not look good, losing in the very first round. Her future is in question. She's this is probably the quickest someone can go from a Ultimate Fighter champion to their future being in jeopardy. She's lost both of her fights since becoming the winner of the Ultimate Fighter. I'm not sure. Perhaps that's a record that may be equaled, but I've certainly not surpassed. You can't do any worse, I guess, if you were to be 0-3 right after you win. But I don't know, not a good situation, and a good welcome to the newcomer Luana Santos. Damon Blacksher really had a lot of hype. People believed in him. I believed in him. He just seems like a serious contender, and he proved that by winning by a twister, only the third twister submission in the history of the UFC. It's a bit complicated to put on, and I think a lot of people know what's coming and can move away from it. But nevertheless, for Jose Johnson, he had a lot going against him. It was a short notice fight. It was his UFC debut, and it's just, a lot on his mind. And then they have to face a twister being thrown at him. Honorable effort he made, but lost to a twister. Jacqueline Amorim came back and looked very good in finishing a tough and gritty Montserrat Ruiz, who had come back from 2 years off, was one of the few 5-foot-tall fighters, one of the shorter fighters in the UFC, and Montserrat Ruiz has now had a few losses. Jacqueline Amorim getting on the boards with their first UFC win. Martin Boudet winning as expected against Josh Parisian. And a lot of first round finishes, quite a few. I didn't even think of that. And then the next one, Isaac Dolgarian, who I did get a good tip off. He actually used to wrestle and compete against Bo Nickel, even though they're quite a bit different in size now. But about 10 years ago, they were in the same weight class. And so I had some good words coming in. Not only that, I had Josh Fremd on my Twitter Spaces, and he's a training partner at Factory X. So I heard a lot of great things about Isaac Dolgarian, and he came through once again with a first-round finish. Very impressive. Terrence McKinney, my man, I've interviewed him a few times. Really good guy training over there with my friend Justin Adams and team Kevin Holland. Came back with an impressive win in the first as he needed to. Marcus McGee, another fighter that I've been impressed with in his two forays into the UFC, both of them becoming victories as expected. Josh Fremd coming out with the victory over Jamie Pickett in a competitive strategic fight. AJ Dobson beating Tafan and Chukwi in an interesting competitive matchup. I'm already running into the main.
Yeah, the main card.
I've gone
You're running
back.
away with it, Colin.
Yeah,
You're
sorry
running
about
away
that.
with
I'm
it.
a runaway train. I'm going to run away American train here. Sorry. So Lord Sanderson, give your thoughts on the prelims, and then we'll begin on the with the Josh Fremd Pickett fight as soon as you finish up the prelims.
Yeah, the prelims were fun. As you said, a lot of finishes there. For me, the ones that really stood out was the twister. Again, I know you've trained in jiu-jitsu as well. I don't know if you've ever been caught with a twister. I've actually been caught with a twister. It's not pretty.
No.
I was very, very much a novice when I was doing jiu-jitsu at the time, and I was grappling with my actual coach at the time,
right.
And he just caught me in a twister, and it's such a weird feeling because you just feel so helpless. Like with an armbar, you can at least tap. Even try to tap it, a twister is painful.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
To pull off a twister, I think it's Bryce Mitchell's done it a few times in the octagon. So seeing that happen was special. Terrence McKinney, massive win for him. He needed to get back on the winning trail, and a good win for him. And as you said, Marcus McGee, again, second performance, looks so comfortable in the octagon, and his punching is just money. He's so accurate, and he's deadly from striking. So he looks to have a really bright future, and he's starting to pick up a lot of momentum, and people are really starting to talk about him in high regard. So it'll be interesting to see how he's match made next, and how he continues to tick over, because could have another star on their hands, the UFC, with Marcus McGee.
I like him. I really do. I'm high on Mr. McGee. And then first card, the main card, Josh Fremd and Jamie Pickett, both of them needing a win. Josh coming off a win, Jamie coming off 2 losses, but Josh still 1-2 in the UFC prior to Saturday. And Josh was just a bit ahead of Pickett the whole fight, but Pickett did provide a much better performance than he did after just getting smoked by Bo Nickel. So good effort by Pickett, and Fremd, I think, looked pretty good. What do you think?
He did. Yeah, completely agree. Jamie Pickett, I hate to write people off. I don't know if he'll be in the UFC for too long. He's not had obviously going up against Bo Nickel in his first fight is no easy feat, but I don't know if he's quite UFC level.
Yeah,
as things stand.
Yeah, he may not be. He may not be, but hate for anyone to lose their job, as I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, we'll have to see. Continuing on, then Dobson and Chukwi, good strategic matchup, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very much a chess match. It was almost tit for tat. No one really seemed like they wanted to commit because they know the implications could be really dangerous. But I think the takedowns for Dobson probably swayed it in his favor, and I think he was slightly busier as well.
Yep, I think so. Tit for tat reminds me of the old Benny Hill show out of England when this beautiful girl said to him, "Well, it's just a case of tit for tat." And then he looks to the camera and goes, "Tat." Anyway, there's a little bit of my American old-fashioned British TV show humor. Nevertheless, as we move on, oh man, killing myself here. All right, so that was good. Anyway, so there we go. That was a good one, Dobson and Chukwi. Yasmin Lucindo against Pollyanna Viana. Pollyanna, the Ice Queen or whatever that her name meant. I think something like that. She came in there. She was trying not to be too Pollyanna-ish. As right, and then but Lucindo, the 21-year-old, did beat her with an arm triangle choke, switching the positions and then catching that in. And the jiu-jitsu girl, Viana, didn't see it coming. And this young Yasmin Lucinda, who's been a pro MMA fighter since she was 15 years old.
Crazy.
Yeah, is looking quite impressive, don't you think?
I think she looked excellent. I think she rocked her really early in the fight and then rocked her again in the second, if I'm not mistaken. But she fought brilliantly. Thought she did a fantastic job. And to get the finish, and for someone so young, she seems so composed. And granted, it's at the Apex, not a massive crowd, etc. But still, to be in there with someone who is experienced and to show that level of composure, to know when to go hard, when to ease off the gas, when to manage range, when to go in close and grapple, and to get the finish the way she did, she could have a very bright future.
Yeah, I would agree. The composure is a bit reminiscent of a chef in one of those better fish and chips restaurants outside of London. They're quite composed as they know their way around the fish and the chips.
100%.
Nice. I appreciate it, mate. All right, next thing, yes, absolutely good future. 21-year-old man. She could be around for 15 years more. And she definitely could be a future champ. Next one, Khalil Roundtree against Chris Daukaus. Fight which brought up the question, can moving down in weight help a man against the round and circular techniques of a tree? And Khalil providing the round circular techniques, the tree altogether, you got Roundtree. And therefore, his victory proving the point that indeed a tree can be dangerous to you if you're not looking. And that was a fight that was one of the few that I called wrong. I called so many of these fights correct, but I thought that coming down in weight, Daukaus would be fighting someone more his own size, even a bit smaller than him. There was a concern that Daukaus had been knocked out 3 times in a row, and that turned out to be probably what was prevalent here, is that the more times you're knocked out, the bigger your sweet spot gets on your jaw. Yeah. Right at the beginning is a little tiny one, and bigger, and it's quite a bad position now. You have a man who's been knocked out 4 times in a row, and it's interesting. Unfortunately, he's a very nice guy. He started out his UFC career with 4 wins in a row. It just shows how competitive it is in the UFC. And just in life, how quickly your fortune can change. Life is a bunch of waves. We all wish that perhaps if we start on a downward wave a bit, that all of a sudden it would go up, and continue. But it really doesn't. There's always going to be some downward movement and some upward. And hopefully Chris Daukaus can recover. His brother had got cut from the UFC, I think, several months ago, and is fighting in another organization already, and I don't know what will happen with Chris. But good win for Khalil. Khalil has been unpredictable a bit lately, but now he's on a 4-fight win streak. The win over Jacoby was debatable, but nevertheless he got the split there, and he's very composed and a good fighter when he's focused, and it seems like he's kind of found his rhythm, doesn't it?
Khalil Roundtree, I don't know about you. When I watch fighting, I obviously know every single one of those men and women would batter me in a fight. But I don't sit there and watch behind the screen and feel scared. When I see Khalil Roundtree fight, especially when he gets his opponent hurt, I fear for their well-being. He is so... And it's weird because you hear him speak pre and post-fight. You see his mannerisms. He seems like he's such a cool guy. But when he's in that octagon and he gets someone hurt, there's very few people who are as tenacious and as dangerous as him. I mean, I remember, who was it against when he delivered the it's twice he's done it, the body kick while the opponent's down on the ground. And if you saw when he knocked Daukaus down, and the first hammer fist, literally it would just from the sky, and he just looked to drop it, and then the second punch he caught him with, or tried to catch him with, where he's literally swung it like he's swinging a baseball bat. He is so brutal, and it's weird. As soon as the referee steps in, he just switches back to normal again.
Yep.
It's crazy,
kind of Bruce Lee-like in some ways.
Yeah, and he's such a fun fighter to watch because he can end the fight at any time. Like, he's so accurate, and he just looked on point. I mean, in my opinion, is one of the best performances I've seen from him was against Eric Handers, where he had just come back from Bangkok. I think it might have been with Tiger Muay Thai, and you saw his game change. He got that vicious knee stomp victory as well. He's such a savage. Seems like such a cool guy, but he's such a savage. And if he puts it all together and can go on a run, he could potentially do something in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got 4 wins in a row, 3 of them by finish. He's got 8 finishes out of 12, which is pretty good. And I like him. He's got that mustache, one of the few mustaches without a beard or goatee. And sometimes he has it really looking like it looks like an 1800s barbershop mustache, you know. And so he's a unique guy. He kind of stands out. The Warhorse, Khalil Roundtree. He's only 33 years old. Which is not that old at 205 pounds. So, yeah, he's a force. And then we switched off to the co-main event: Cub Swanson and Hakeem Dawodu. Hakeem being over a 2-1 favorite. Most of us had the same feeling, and that those of us, especially that are older or that remember Cubs heyday and see a guy who's 39. And those of his age or older or close to it, we're cheering for him, if for nothing else, just for that fact. However, most of us also expected he would come up short against Hakeem Dawodu, and it looks like save for the judge's decision. It appears he did come up short against Hakeem Dawodu. I ran a poll, and we can take a look at this really quick, or at least have a look at it through my eyes, telling you guys the result. I think it's still ongoing, but I asked people their feeling on that fight. Here we go. So the choices were: it was a complete robbery, Cub lost. Second choice is Cub lost, but it was close. Third choice, very close, no robbery. And fourth choice, Cub close, but Cub actually won. Only 8.4 out of 261 people. I've had quite a few people take part in my poll, for which I am eternally grateful. 261 votes. 8.4% felt that it was a close fight, but Cub did indeed win. The next one, 6.9, even less, felt that it was very close. There was no robbery. The next one, 24.5% felt Cub had lost, but it was indeed close. And the final option, 60.2% felt it was a complete robbery and Cub lost. So if you look at that 60.2% figure in and of itself, that's the majority. And then if you look at adding the second category to it, both of whom believe that Cub did lose, that's a whopping 84.7% of people polled felt that Cub did indeed lose, and I'm among them. How about you?
I completely agree. Again, I love Cub Swanson, a legend of the sport, and he didn't get beaten about. He didn't get pummeled or anything like that. He lost that fight, though. I don't understand how the judges can give it to Cub.
No. I really.
It just makes no sense.
Problem. No. And it's also quite an important fight that was for Hakeem Dawodu, having lost one against DeRosa. And I mean, the reality is not. It should, had this been a win, as it should have been, Hakeem would have gone to 5, would have gone to 7-4 in the UFC, but instead, he would have gone to 7-3 in the UFC, but instead he's gone to 6-4 with 2 losses in a row, and that's really unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I don't know what else he had to do. Yeah, this is. I don't know. I mean, you've been following the sport for quite a few years, and with so many fights, sometimes it can get kind of blurred together. But do you feel, as I do, that it seems like in the last perhaps 12 to 18 months, if not maybe 2 years, there's more of these bad decisions even than there used
Yeah.
to be? Yeah.
It's weird, and I don't understand it
Yeah.
because we're all. I mean, the sport is young, but the more you watch it, the more you participate in it, the more you judge it, the better you should become at it, right?
Yes. Yes.
And again, I'm no expert, and I would get it wrong as well. But if and I know it's different being on in the stadium or in the venue and being on TV. Maybe we get the treat of seeing different angles. But there are just some fights where you just, no matter where you are, you just know someone's won and someone's lost. And just
Yes.
because it wasn't a beat down or a pummeling or a one-sided affair throughout, you're still seeing that one person is winning the rounds. I mean, you only have to look at Cub's reaction. Cub
Yeah.
congratulated
Yeah.
Dawodu and his team. Cub,
Yeah.
when the scores read out, almost chuckled as if to say, "I've been given a free one here." And
Yeah.
the implications are, and you're right, the implications are it's another loss in his record. What does that mean for his future? It's gonna make it difficult for him from a leverage standpoint in his next fight in terms of paying all that potentially. But some of these fighters are fighting for winning for show and win.
Yeah.
That's another problem. Like
Yes.
you
Got
instead of
ripped
getting
off of half of
100K,
his
you might be
purse.
walking around. You're walking away 50K. That's big money. And something's got to be done. But I don't know whether they need to do an appeal process but something has to be done whereby you go back and you watch the fight back and you go, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Not necessarily you can't overturn it, but something's got to happen because something's not right.
We can
The
make it into a
system
no
is broken.
contest at least, or something like that. Yeah,
Mm,
I'm pulling up the SureDog scoring, and they're one of the OGs in MMA, and they've got guys. I think all the guys there are like 40 years old or higher. Most of them are at least. So they've got a lot of experienced guys. Jay Petrie, I think, is definitely over 40 years old, very experienced. He scored it, his unofficial card, he scored it 29-28. Dawodu. Brian Knapp has been around for a while. He scored at 29-28. Dawodu. Tristan Critchfield, who I think has been around quite a while, also 29-28. Dawodu. All three SureDog judges had it 29-28. Dawodu, and these are guys like us that are putting out their
yeah.
cards every week, that are scrutinizing and watching and judging fights. So yeah, it's a shame. I mean, there's not much more I guess we can say about it, except
Yeah.
that I really need this stuff to stop and to change. And you know, happy for Cub, but he didn't win. He knows he didn't win that fight, and
Yeah.
but more unhappy for Dawodu, and also more unhappy for mostly for Dawodu, but also for the gamblers who did pick right and lost.
Yeah. That as
So,
well. Yeah.
yep. Main event. I was correct in picking Luque. I put Luque as one of my best bets of the night. A lot of people were trying to caution me in that he had a brain hemorrhage only a year ago. That was the first fight, by the way, out of 30 fights. That was the first fight that he had been stopped on strikes, and it was very unusual. Him and Jeff Neal are both bangers, and
Yeah.
Neal had a few losses, not a lot, but I think Neal had proved to have the bit of a vulnerability in the chin, whereas Luque's chin looked like it was made out of steel, and
Yeah.
so it surprised a lot of us when it was Luque who
You only have to look
stopped.
at the Tyron Woodley fight. Tyron Woodley hit him hard and he didn't even
Yeah.
fall. So
No, and so right, and so it was interesting, and it makes sense in that whether he didn't get enough sleep or he wasn't hydrated enough or whether Jeff Neal just hit him in the right spots, it really hurt him, and now we know why he kind of stopped defending himself because his brain was bleeding. Now, I felt this: had he been like 35 years old or older, I would have cautioned people to go with him. But at 31 years old, having had a full year off, having been cleared by doctors for this fight, I felt pretty confident that even if not the old Vicente Luque, and he didn't look as good as he used to in this fight, but I said even at like 70% of himself, he's too big, he's too young, and he's too good a striker for a 39-year-old Rafael dos Anjos. And I was right. That was one of my best bets I put out there. Go with Vicente Luque, and he looked good. He mentioned that he was a bit nervous early on when he got hit because of the brain hemorrhage, and but basically he was never hurt, and he even said he got hit. He was worried, but then he was kind of like, "Oh, okay, I'm all right." I mean, he's a strong kid. He's a very strong kid. He's got a good neck. Genetically, he's got a good chin, and I think it was a perfect storm where Jeff Neal stopped him on strikes. I think this guy could fight for another 6, 7, 8 years, and we may never see him stopped on strikes again.
Yeah,
so that could turn out to be the anomaly of his career. But very impressive looking. Rafael dos Anjos just is a little bit small for this weight division, and now he's a little bit old for this weight division. He's got tons of miles on him, 47 fights. He's a warrior. His legacy is that he was a former champion who holds amazing wins at lightweight and a couple of kind of good wins at welterweight. Mostly the glory for him was at lightweight. And 38, he'll be 39 in 3 months. But good guy, though. But Luque is a beast. I don't know. I mean, one of the things I can say is that I've been high on Luque for years. He got out wrestled by Bilal Muhammad, but I think that he's tightened that up a bit because RDA wanted to wrestle him and tried to wrestle him.
Yeah,
and
didn't get a chance.
RDA is right, and so I personally think that a rematch against Bilal, I think, would favor Luque. Luque is a killer. He's a really nice guy too. I think Luque is going to jump back into things, and I think this was the fight he needed to feel comfortable in there again. And but yes, I didn't mean to drag that on so long. But yeah, I feel good about where Luque goes from here. I think it's a bit uncertain now for RDA.
Yeah, completely agree. I thought it was a decent fight. Wasn't the most exciting considering how exciting these two fights can be. I think RDA is a product of, if there was a 165 division, he'd be so perfect for that division. He seems like he slightly struggles to get to 155, but he seems undersized at 170 as well. I mean, I know Gaethje recently won the crown for BMF. Dos Anjos is a person people sleep on when it comes to the BMF talk. I mean, he will fight anyone across 2 different weight divisions at any time, and he will always put on a good account of himself. I think he is, without shadow of a doubt, one of the most game opponents we've seen, and not just being game, but also being a fantastic fighter as well. You remember how he disposed of people like Benson Henderson and Anthony Pettis when Anthony Pettis looked as though he was going to be the next big thing.
Yes.
Shame he didn't win, and congratulations to Luque, but we may start to see Dos Anjos wind his career down, but what a legend he is. And I think you're right, Luque could potentially go from strength to strength again in this division and put a couple of wins together and potentially get a title shot.
Let's move on, and yeah, definitely we'll see where RDA goes. Hard to say, but he's definitely, I think, in the twilight of his career.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you begin? Why don't we go maybe blaze through the prelims with expedience here? And I'm going to say Karine Silva is a killer, and I think she will beat Marina Moroz, and I think Moroz was the last woman to beat her. No, she wasn't the last woman to beat her, but she was the second woman to beat her, and she beat her 9 years ago. And I think Moroz is in big trouble against Karine Silva. Karine Silva is legit. She is the finisher in the women's division. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 finishes in a row, with 1 in the Contender Series and 2 in the UFC. Yeah, I think Marina Moroz is in big trouble here. And I do believe you can get pretty good odds on Karine Silva right now. This is, to me, this is ludicrous. Marina Moroz is tough. I know what people are saying. She beat her before. She's the way more experienced fighter, but I don't know. I don't hate to be emphatic and go overboard, because when I do, sometimes I'm incorrect. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to say I'm pretty darn confident that Karine Silva gets her revenge. And right now, you can get her in America, U.S. odds -155 to -178. I think pretty soon, near fight time, she's going to be -200. So I think if you want to bet on the Silva side, I would get to it quickly. I like Karine Silva a lot in that matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I understand people speak of the first fight, but Karine is a very different fighter to when she last fought Moreau. So I'm going for Silva to win.
Yep, excellent. Next up, we have, and there's some we could maybe even skip here. Andrea Lee, Natalia Silva. That's a weird one. No idea. Andrea Lee has been around for a while and just usually comes up short. Natalia Silva is 15-5 with 12 finishes, 26 years old. She's kind of, she's on a killing streak as well. And she may at some point end up facing her Brazilian counterpart in Karine Silva. I'm higher on Karine than I am on Natalia, but Natalia should beat Andrea Lee. Although Andrea Lee's a tricky, cagey veteran, as they used to say in pro wrestling. So I think that could be a battle. And right now, Natalia. This is what's bizarre to me. This is what's bizarre to me. I feel Karine Silva should be maybe like -250. And instead she's only minus like 155 to 170. So I feel there's an underlay, if that's a word, that there's great value when the odds makers have that fight too close in that first fight. Opposite here in the second fight, I feel Andrea Lee has a fair shot, and she's a huge underdog. They have Natalia Silva like more than 3-1 favorite. So I think both of those are wrong. I think the first fight should be more like the 3-1 favorite. No, in this case, I think Natalia Silva probably wins, but Andrea Lee's going to cause her some problems. I wouldn't lay that 3-1 chalk on Natalia Silva, although she probably wins. What do you think?
Yeah, I've actually got Andrea Lee for this one. I think she's a very tricky fighter. She's hard to sort of dominate and to keep down or strike with sometimes. So I'm actually going to go with Andrea Lee. I wouldn't be surprised if Silva won, but something just says Andrea Lee might get the decision win here.
Yeah, I think so. Andre Petrosky against Gerald Meerschaert. As they would say in England, the man who sees which way the gamblers are betting and in his fight, and then he chooses to shirt all over your bet slip.
Yeah.
So in any case, that's what he's done to most of my bet slips, whether I'm with him or against him. If I'm with him, he loses. If I'm against him, he wins. Now, he does have GM3, is great submissions. He's got 27 submissions out of 35 fights.
Crazy.
That's insane. And he also has 6 KOs. So he's got 33 finishes out of 35 victories. However, when he loses, he frequently gets stopped as well.
Yeah.
But usually not by being submitted. Interestingly enough, Andre Petrosky is also a black belt here. Meerschaert is 35 years old, 6'1", at middleweight, 185 pounds. Andre Petrosky a little bit shorter at 6 foot even, 32 years old. The difference is that Meerschaert, 3 years older, has 51 fights, a lot of miles on Meerschaert. Petrosky has 10 fights, which is actually quite a low amount of fights for being 32 years old. However, he did have a good long amateur career, he actually was 7-1, somewhat long, 8 fights as an amateur. Anyway, this should be Petrovsky without too much of an issue, and he should be a good favorite here, and he is about 2.5 to 1. I have Andre Petrovsky here.
I completely agree. I don't think it will be a washout, though. I think it'll be a hard fought victory. I think Meerschaft's really unlucky in the sense of everyone kind of associates him with and thinks he is that poor type of fighter because of what Hamzat did to him. I just think Hamzat is a special fighter and caught him with something that I don't think Meerschaft expected. I think he'll put up a tough fight, but I do think Petrovsky will win.
I think so. Petrovsky will provide the petrol, and Meerschaft will provide the shart.
Yeah.
As you guys might say in England. There we go. Next up, we are looking at someone here. I can't even see who it is. Let me see. Brad Katona against unknown fighters. So being that we don't know, I'd say we can pass on that. But if it was you or me, probably Brad Katona wins. But other than us, it's hard to say. If unknown fighter, who knows? Austin Hubbard versus Kurt Holobaugh. The man called Thud, Austin Hubbard, out of Denver, Colorado, 15-6, and he is on a 2-fight win streak. And Mr. Kurt Holobaugh is 36 years old. He's been in this sport for a good while. That's 12 years. And he on a 2-fight win streak as well outside the UFC after having lost 3 fights in the UFC. So Holobaugh would love to get his first win in the UFC. In fact, he fought in the UFC on 4 occasions over the years and is 0-4.
Oh.
Yeah. So if he can win one, it would be brilliant. And I think he's got somewhat of a chance here. Let's see. The odds makers feel that where is it here? Odds makers feel that he is a bit of a long shot, but not much. 1.5 to 1. Hubbard hasn't really been killing it, so I wouldn't bet a penny on this fight. I think that probably Hubbard should win, but Holobaugh is really going to want to get that UFC victory. Love to see him get it, so I think he's going to try hard. I think this will be a close fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know much about the two guys, but I think I sided it. It's got to be now or never for the win, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've spoken about this, and we hope it doesn't happen to anyone. But if you go 0-5 in the UFC, the writing's pretty much on the wall for you, isn't it?
Yep, I would say even though they've just brought him back, it may be a 1-fight contract. We'll see. I agree. Nevertheless, we have RoboCop next. Gregory Rodriguez, 13-5. RoboCop was on a good streak until he got caught by Bruno Ferreira in January. He's got to be back to get that bad taste out of his mouth. A very tough fighter, 31 years old, 13 wins and 5 losses. Out of his 13 wins, 11 finishes. So RoboCop is a finisher, 6'3", big guy for 185 pounds. And his opponent, Denis Tiuliulin, out of Moscow, Russia, 10-7, which is not a brilliant record. Not 9 finishes though. So when he wins, he finishes. He was 6'1", a bit shorter, out of Evolve Gym over in Singapore, at least according to Sherdog. And he in the UFC is 1-2, and he's coming off a loss. Both of his losses in the UFC were submissions where he didn't tap out by choke.
So he'd been put to sleep.
Looks like he was put to sleep. Yeah, he was put to sleep a year and a half ago by Aliashkab Kizraev, and he was put to sleep 5 months ago by Junyum Park. And he did beat Jamie Pickett. I think this is RoboCop's fight here, and I think RoboCop's going to be in a bad mood. And let me see here. So RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez is going to be 3.5 to 1 favorite, and he really should handle business here, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he will. I think he will just be too much for his opponent. I think he's too well rounded and too strong, and I think he'll actually get a stoppage within 2 rounds.
I think so too. I feel so sure of this that I think we could say that if Dennis Teolulian wins, we should both change our last names to Teolulian. Teolulian. Colin Teolulian and Callum Teolulian. That would be brilliant. You know what that reminds me of? I think the year was 1997 or 8. I was watching a heavyweight boxing match, and it was the Chris Bird, the Olympian, who was a brilliant defensive fighter. And he was going against a guy named Frez Okendo, a tough guy. But I remember I came into my buddy's place that had the pay-per-view, and I said, "This is ridiculous." And I said, "If Frez Okendo beats Chris Bird at like a 6-1 underdog, I will change my first name to Frez." And at the end, it appeared that Frez had won, but they gave the decision to Chris Bird.
Oh, you got lucky there.
Oh man, my buddies were like, "Man, I'll tell you, Colin, because we would have honored your request had that happened. And next time you would have come in and watched the fights, we would have said, 'Hey, Frez, how are you doing?'" Nothing against the name Frez, but all respect to the fighter, but almost had to change my name to Frez. I would have been Frez Crandall. Missed it by that much. Nevertheless, definitely RoboCop there. Okay, as we continue on with this evening of fight recaps, picks, and comedy, we have Chris Weidman and Brad Tavares. How do you size that one up?
It all depends on the mental block potentially Chris Weidman will have. His last time stepping in the octagon was that brutal leg break. Tavares is almost a gatekeeper for 185 pounds. If you get past Tavares and you do it in impressive fashion, then usually good things come from there on in for you. We've seen it with Izzy, for example. I hope Chris Weidman is fully recovered. I hope he's good. And I think Chris Weidman at his best beats Brad Tavares, but we don't know what version we're going to see of him as he returns from his bad injury.
I agree. What would you guess the odds would be? Because I've just glanced at them.
I reckon Tavares will be the favorite
by 2.5 to 1.
Yeah,
nearly
because of the injuries. The injuries coming back from.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I'd like to see the upset too. I think Weidman could do it. I think at his best he was a bit better than Tavares, but this is going to be a battle. Important. Yeah. It's important for both of them. For a comeback, first time in 2.5 years, nearly. For Chris Weidman, Chris had a record of 1-3 in his previous 4 fights, and he had a record of 2-6 in his past 8 fights.
Yeah, he has been fighting all killers, though. To be fair to him,
that's true. That's true. Brad Tavares has a record of 2-2 in his last 4 fights, and 2-4 in his last 6 fights, 4-4 in his last 8 fights. So both of them really would like to have a win here. Obviously, they're going to fight hard, but I wouldn't bet on this fight. Probably Tavares wins it, but I'd love to see if Weidman comes through and looks good. He can do it. I'd love to see it. I think there's a chance, don't you?
There is. I think Weidman will have to rely on his wrestling.
Yeah, without a doubt. And his jiu-jitsu is very good, too.
Yes, it is.
If he got on top, a lot of people forget about that, but if he got on top of Tavares, he could catch him with something.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yep. Marlon Vera, Pedro Munoz. Why don't you start with that?
Great fights kick off the main card. 2 guys who know how to throw down. A South American affair, this one. Vera's coming off the Corey Sanhagen loss, so he's desperate to get back in the octagon. If I'm not mistaken, this was meant to be against Henry Cejudo. So when we fight Henry Cejudo, we fight Pedro Munoz, but everyone knows Munoz is a handful for any single bantamweight. I think this is a phenomenal fight to kick off the main card, but I'm going to go with Chito Vera. I think Chito hits so hard that even if he's not winning the fight, he can find something to win the fight with. We've seen it against Frankie Edgar. seen against Dominic Cruz. He's just a very good finisher, and I think he gets the finish in this.
I think you could be right. My octagonal opinion on this fight will be that Marlon Vera does win it. He's just under a 2-1 favorite. I think Munoz is going to fight hard because he really could use a win. But I think Chito Vera wins it, but it's going to be a battle. This will be exciting. I do agree for sure. Possibly fight of the night right here.
Next, you've got Neil Magny versus Ian Machado, Gary, should we say. It was meant to be Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal, which would have been an absolutely fantastic fight. I still think this is a good fight. It's weird. I'll just speak about Gatekeeper. If you're in the 170-pound division, you have to see Neil Magny at some point. And it's weird because Usman never fought him, neither is Leon Edwards, but he is still effectively a gatekeeper for that division. You see how many top fighters he's fought and still going strong. But I've got to go with Ian. I'm a big fan of Ian Gary. I know everyone compares him to Conor McGregor. I think the only similarities are their confidence, and they're both Irish. I think they're very different personalities outside of that. But one thing they have got in common is they can bloody both fight. So I'm going to go with Ian in this one.
Yes. I remember when I had a roommate years back from Ireland. It was funny. I was pointing out to him some of these funny American commercials for Irish products, like the Lucky Charms cereal. And I played the Leprechaun. And he said, yes, that's exactly what the States feels, that we are the leprechauns. But here we go. And then the other one was the Irish Spring commercial. And he said, this is atrocious accents. But they were older commercials anyway. That's a funny thing. Back in the day, I think probably in British cinema, I'm sure as well, like 50, 60 years ago, they didn't have access to people that were able to teach them a proper accent for 6 and 7 or 8 months. And they would just kind of wing it. They would like listen to someone speaking with that accent for a couple of days. And then go and film it. A bunch of crap accents. I mean, like a very funny American cinema. Some of the English accents and Irish, horrible, just laughable in American cinema from 50 and 60 years ago. Nevertheless, we are looking at Neil Magny, Ian Gary. Gary is a tough guy, 6'3", so he's definitely not a similar size gentleman to Conor. Definitely long and lanky, but has that great fighting style out of Dublin, Ireland. Indeed, another Republic of Ireland
off the back of a great win versus Rodriguez as well.
Say again?
A great win against last time out against D-Rod.
Yes, indeed. Out of his 12 wins, he has 8 finishes, 7 KOs, and 1 sub. Only 25 years old, and he's already 12-0 with 5 wins in the UFC in a row. No one's put up too much of trouble. Well, actually, he's had some guys take him to the 3rd round, but this is going to be his toughest test without doubt. Neil Magny is 36, so an 11-year age difference. He's got 38 fights. He's such a tough guy, although he is starting to look a bit older physically, if you notice. In some of his fights, he looked pretty darn good against Philip Rowe, but I just have a feeling that any day now Neil Magny is going to slow down a bit, but nevertheless, he continues to never lose 2 fights in a row. In fact, he's only once in his career lost 2 fights in a row, and in his last several fights, he had that great 3-fight win streak, and then he had a 2-fight win streak. And since he lost to Shavkat, he's been win 1, lose 1. He beat D-Rod. He lost to Gilbert Burns. He beat Philip Rowe in a very close fight. I think I felt Philip Rowe won. Nevertheless, he's up against it here. But if Ian Gary makes any mistakes, or if Ian Gary gets frustrated a bit, gets flustered a bit, which Neil Magny can do, Neil could win this fight. I would imagine it's about, I thought it'd be a bit more than 2-1, but it's actually about 3.5 to 1 favorite for the Irishman. Yeah, Neil is so tricky and just messing
Yeah,
people up. So I
yeah,
wouldn't be laying that chalk, as they say. I'm not going to bet $355 to win 100 on Ian Gary, but I do think he wins. So I would just say, if anything, a small bet for the hell of it on Magny, or a bet that maybe the fight. I feel like the fight probably will go the distance. So that's the only other bet I could think of. But Magny could win. It wouldn't shock me, and it would sure invigorate his career and revitalize it, wouldn't it? But it would be a big shot for the prospect Ian Gary. Yeah, it'll be interesting if Gary goes in there and just smashes Magny. It will be a statement. Although once again, like I said, at any moment Magny's going to slow down. So it might be a statement saying a couple of different things in that case. What do you think? Same thing?
yeah. I think Ian Gary wins this by decision. I can understand why people would say Neil Magny. I just think Ian Gary's style is really made for Neil Magny. Neil Magny is a fighter that likes to get into a flow state. He usually doesn't win the first round of fights, but when he's in his flow state, he can cause the opposition problems. I
That's it.
think Ian Gary starts fast, and I think he maintains it throughout the rounds, and I think he gets a decision win, a comfortable decision win.
I think so too. I think if he wins, they should give him a sponsorship at Barry's Tea. Maybe he could be the one that's drinking a nice quality cup of tea.
Yeah.
Call him the gentleman of the UFC. What the hell is that? Look at that! You hear that?
Yeah.
Jackasses doing who knows what. Okay, let me see. Where are we next, mate? We have
First championship fight.
there we go. We got the
Ray
first
Lee
of,
versus Lemos.
that is right.
Um,
What do you think?
I'll be honest, apart from Rose and Tatiana Suarez, I don't think anyone beats Wei Lee. I think this is going to be a very fun fight for as long as it lasts, but I think Wei Lee gets to finish her. She's too good. She's so well rounded. She can beat you on the feet, standing up. She can beat you on the ground. I think unless Tatiana Suarez fights Wei Lee, or Rose, I think she goes in as the favorite, and rightly so. And I think she gets the job done here.
You
Third
could be
round,
right.
probably don't want to go for.
Yep, good call. Here's what I'll say: when life gives you lemos, make lemonade. So
Right,
that's
I
what,
like that. I like that.
right? Right? It's supposed to be lemons, but lemos
Yeah,
close enough.
Lemosade. Yeah.
Yeah, lemonade. Yeah, and that's what Amanda. That's what Wei Lee is going to try to do to Amanda. But Amanda has been known not to like people to squeeze her lemos, and she doesn't. She's not into that. So
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to call for the upset here, although I wouldn't bet very heavily on it.
Oh
Wow,
wow.
more than 2-1. Yeah, I think Wei Li Zhang and the crowd, instead of Zhang at the end of that fight, is going to end up saying, "Dang, I blew that." So I think that it's going to be the upset in Amanda Lemos. Although I don't think I would bet very much on it, but
Yeah.
I feel that Lemos is going to come up with something though. But here's what I think. I think Tatiana Suarez beats either one of them. I think Tatiana just smokes Wei Lee with her
Mm.
wrestling, and so I think if Wei Lee loses here, it could give her a chance to save face a bit. Although maybe not. Maybe there's more honor being beaten by Suarez than
Yeah.
having the Lemos squeeze your Lemos out of you. But hard to say. All I know is there's going to be some Lemos squeezings on the ground after this fight, regardless of who squeezed them and who got squeezed. One of the two. So that's my thought. I think though it will be exciting though. This will be an action fight, no doubt. Two
Yeah.
alpha females here giving a chance to give each other a fine alpha. How do you do in the center of the octagon?
Yeah, completely agree. And then to round off the card is one of the most anticipated fights of the year, and that is bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling going up against the potential megastar in Sugar Sean O'Malley. I actually think this is a way tougher fight to predict than people are thinking. I think everyone just thinks that Aljo's going to run over to him, grab him, and then hold him down. You may think he lost to Petr Yan. One thing Sean O'Malley isn't an unintelligent fighter. He's very smart in there, very calculated. He's a sniper. And from what I've seen of Sterling, he does take risks on the feet. And he takes those risks because usually he feels as though he can take the opposition's power, or he knows by getting close, his wrestling comes into action. O'Malley will find that chin if he's not careful. He has to be on his P's and Q's. And I know this might sound like a bit of an upset. I'm gonna go Sugar Show, and it hurts me because as a Jamaican myself, I want to see Aljo and Leon win forever, but something about this fight screams Sugar, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I understand that, and I respect that, and Sugar is a tough guy. He is a 2.5 to 1 underdog here, and but to make another pun, as I love to do, the fact that you're picking Sugar Sean against your fellow Jamaican,
Yeah, it hurts me to do that.
I will say this: Jamaican me pick the other guy, and I will pick the Jamaican in Aljo. I've been on the Aljo train from the beginning. Aljo's had brilliant. All these haters. Yeah, he's a great fighter. If Sugar can shut down the takedowns completely, he could win. He's the better striker. He's much longer. He's younger. Just seems like he's got these long legs. He really hasn't gone against a lot of guys with a lot of wrestling. I mean, let's examine that. Petr Yan can wrestle, but he doesn't really like to. Paiva has some wrestling. Munoz, that was an eye poke, and Munoz isn't a really great wrestler. Moutinho doesn't. Almeida not. Vera, no. Wineland was almost 40 years old when he beat him. I mean, this will be the first really good wrestler. And, could it? I mean, a lot of people are feeling it could be easy for Aljo, and they may be wrong. In fact, MMA is very tricky, and what you expect will happen, what the majority expects will happen, frequently doesn't. And, there's so much on the line for Sean here. UFC would probably love to see him win with all his popularity and charisma. He has a chance. If Aljo makes any mistake, he could very well get caught. Yeah. Aljo is 34 years old now. At 34, just turned 34. At 34, that's not in your prime for a bantamweight.
Yeah.
So he is, I think, officially as of recently just outside his prime.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that problems could come up. I think probably 2 years ago, there wouldn't be as much of a question, although he's accomplished so much in the last 2 years. But I would say if you could make him 2 years younger or 3 years younger right now, there'd be less of a chance. But if he's lost even a little bit of a step of reflexes, then he could get caught and lose this year. So I think it's going to be exciting. I think Sean will have his moments. I am going with Aljo. But I don't begrudge people going against Sean. It's a dangerous fight. Sean is such a charismatic fighter, and he's so tall and lean for this fight. I mean, Aljo at 5'7" is usually as tall as his opponents are taller in this division. Yeah. And he's going to be giving away 4 inches in height and a bit of reach here, I think. So it'll be an exciting fight. How long do you think this fight goes? The distance or not?
I think if Aljo wins, I think it goes a distance. If O'Malley wins, I think it's within 3 rounds. In fact, I think it's within 2 rounds.
Yeah. Well, it'd be if O'Malley wins, then they'll have to break out the Irish something. Break out some Irish beer. Well, he's not Irish. He's Irish American. I remember my roommate used to always say that. He said, what is it with all these Americans walking around saying I'm Irish? They've never been to Ireland. They're not in touch with any relatives in Ireland. They're not Irish. But he said, but it's great that these Americans love the Irish.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So this will be an exciting fight. I think it'll be a good card.
So do I.
Yeah. I think perhaps it could have been stacked a bit better with some bigger names, but
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the card.
There's good fighters.
Yeah, I like the card. And I think there's a lot of potential stories to come out of this card as well. Right from the prelims all the way through to the main event.
I think so too. If I had to suggest a parlay, though, that I'm confident in, I would say RoboCop and Andre Petrovsky. You'd probably be with me on that, right?
Yeah.
So
completely agree.
Yeah, but yeah, some good women's fights, and it will be indeed exciting out of Boston, Massachusetts. And there are a ton of Irish Americans in the Boston area. So they're going to be going crazy for Sean O'Malley.
Yeah,
however,
it's going to be a pro-Sean crowd.
Oh, yeah. But Aljamain is an East Coaster, and that is the deep into the East Coast. So there's going to be a lot of Aljo people as well. Hopefully there's no fights in the crowd there or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
hopefully not.
Yeah, will be exciting. Well, that's my thought on that. And also, Nate Diaz gave a good shot against Jake Paul. I think that goes back far, though. Next, they're talking about KSI if he fights Jake Paul.
Yeah, Connor called out KSI as well.
That's
it's all happening.
That'd be crazy. Is KSI going to take any of those matchups, you think?
No.
No? Now, if he did and needed you to be a backup in case he got hurt, would you step in there?
Maybe.
I like it. I'll coach you. I'll start training you right away. We'll cut the fish and chips back to once a month.
Yeah. You'd have to work on a nutrition from start, but yeah, maybe.
You're in great shape anyway. I know you can do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to try and get the early stoppage.
There we go. I like it. I can think you could go in there and take care of business. I think you might do better than KSI, and I think you're better looking as well. So that would be a good factor going in your favor. Nonetheless, mates, this has been another great edition. Any final thoughts?
Just really looking forward to the card. Really, really looking forward to the card, and keep the good cards and good fights rolling on.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Me too. It'll be great. And I look forward to it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll let you take it away, Callum. But my final thoughts is enjoy the fights. Take good care of yourself. Be good. Drink a lot of water. It's quite hot still in the United States. Maybe in England. I don't know. And, just take good care of yourself. Try to get along. Be kind to your neighbors and yourself. And take good care of your animals. And, enjoy our favorite sport of MMA. And drink responsibly. And don't, and remember now that what used to be Twitter is now X.
Yes.
That's my final statement.
Is indeed. Well, people, I don't think I can do a better outro than that. I will say, though, make sure you follow and subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Make sure you go and follow Colin on Twitter at Colin Crandall33. My name is at Callum Sanderson on all social media platforms, and go and follow Chris MMA on social media as well. People, it's been another one in the books. We look forward to seeing what happens between Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley, and the rest of the fights on 292. We're back next week. Until we see you next time, thank you all for watching. Take care.
Peace.